Perfect. This is good. All right, so this is Stacey McDaniel, and I had the pleasure of meeting her a couple weeks ago because of Tim Hallman. And she has a lot of networking that she does, and I'm so excited that I got to connect with her. Once I got to know her, I just was enthralled, Stacey, with your amazing sense of joy and how you live with purpose. It's incredible. Very intelligent, obviously can collaborate and network and make a lot of things happen. So that's super exciting. And so I just am excited to introduce you to this group and to whoever else listens online. She has 14 years of experience in the Y. So she's going to tell us a little bit about her Y story, because that's what we love to hear, but also what her work is, and also just what drives her and her spiritual leadership, and how her faith motivates and intersects with your work and your leadership. So to get us started, I would love for you to just hear a bit about how you started at the Y. I found it very fascinating, and how you ended up at the YUSA. You've been there for almost 10 years, and would love to hear how that happened, and then we'll get into what you do there at the Y of USA. But go ahead, Stacey.
Thank you for having me, Janelle. I'm excited to be with all of you today and to see a lot of familiar faces in the room and meet some new ones too. So oh wow, where to start, Janelle? Like capping the last 14 years into this time. And I think my faith has been right there from the beginning. And so I'll tell you, I got my start, and like most folks at the Y, it wasn't where I saw my full career. I was teaching aerobics part-time, and the CEO called me in his office and said he'd been reviewing resumes and saw that I had a master's degree. And so he said, "Stacey, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Jimmy, I'm getting paid to work out, and you're the one paying me. Like, what do you mean what I'm doing here?" And he said, "You have a master's degree?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "Well, I have something that I want to present before to you. And so here's what it is." He said, "Our Y is not going to make it. If we stay the way we are right now, we'll be out of business." And he said, "I want to put the C back in this YMCA and do mission work beyond our walls. If we don't, we won't survive it." He said, "I have no money, no staff, and no real goal of what this looks like. So you have a wide open opportunity with no money and no people to support it." And of course, like, who says no to that opportunity? But he said, "Go home and pray about it. Talk about it with your husband." And I did. And I just felt this incredible sense that this was an opportunity that I wanted to be part of. I wanted to put the C in that YMCA. I wanted to serve my community. And I felt like it was an opportunity to just really get out there and live your purpose. But what I didn't know was that it was going to look really different. It was going to be challenging. So I'm going to share some slides with you and walk you through this story. So let's see if I can make this work. And not lose sight of all of you, because that's pretty important too. All right, Janelle, are you seeing the slide of my Y?
You are good. You're live. Go ahead.
Technology gets the best of us. So this is a picture of me at my start at the Tiftarea YMCA. And this lovely lady you see with that face full of hope is shooting a basketball goal. And she is so hopeful that it is going to make, and I want you to look at the kids' faces. It is agonizing. They know there is no hope that that basketball is going to ring that net. But that is Priscilla. And I met Priscilla Bell at a community organizing meeting. And at the time, we knew we wanted to do food, but we didn't know necessarily what that would look like. We had some ladies who were volunteering some sewing lessons and different things, and we were presenting this. And Priscilla was a community organizer. She did Easter egg hunts, all kinds of things, clothing drives, just anything to really serve the children. Huge heart. And she we're in this community group, right? Super nervous because it's all these people and you're trying to present this big idea and get them to volunteer. And Priscilla slams her hands down on the table. And she said to me, Stacey, I don't need your damn sewing lessons. She said, I need you to teach my girls how to not get pregnant and to teach my boys some conflict resolution. Can you do that? And I said, oh my gosh, she just cursed in front of all these people. And like, she's super aggressive with, can I do this? I didn't know what to do. And I said, Priscilla, will you show me? Will you show me what the kids need? And she said, And all the skepticism you see on those boys' faces were written on hers. And but in that next week, she came to the YMCA and she said, get in the car, we're going for a ride. I said, okay. We go into a local housing authority complex. And we were talking with some of the kids, and this little girl, she wants to know, okay, well, what kind of food would you be bringing? We're telling her what we're thinking about doing. Would she be interested? And so I said, well, the menu was chicken and peaches. And she said, peaches? She said, I haven't had fruit all summer. And it just ripped my heart out. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And I just knew that what we did was really going to matter in that moment. I knew that these were real kids, real needs, and this was our opportunity to be that seed and to be hands and feet. And so we worked together and organized about 105 different volunteer groups. We had churches adopt parks, housing authority complexes. They would pass out the food. And then we had other volunteer groups coming in to read with the kids, to do conflict resolution, to do vacation Bible school. We had Harley Davidson volunteers come out and do bicycle safety with the kids. That was one of my personal favorites. It was such a wild theme, but we really worked together that summer and wound up serving about 1,700 kids in our rural community meals all summer long. But it wasn't just meals. It is, and this is the gist of the food program. I look up and I see Amanda's face, Laura's face, Stephanie McElhone, and it's never just the food. It is that holistic nourishment. It's putting people into children's lives who can mentor them, who can encourage them, who can give them coats, give them shoes when they see them barefoot. It's never just about that hunger for food. It is a holistic nourishment of mind, spirit, and body. And I, fast forward a good bit, but that the hospital actually stepped in and bought a facility for the YMCA and outfitted it, and said they did it because they felt like we were vital to the health of that community. And I know that it wouldn't have been possible if we hadn't have really delved in and worked arm in arm with the community to be able to meet that need, to put that seed back in that YMCA. It was just one of those moments in time, and I just felt like that was it. That picture I showed you, I'm holding Zizi, and Zizi came every day without fail to that food site. And she looked forward to it. She just hugged us every day. And there's millions of ZZs in this country. And there's millions of folks on this call that can go and can organize. And you don't have to have money. You don't have to have staff. We have seen time and time again, Wise lean into this work and be able to meet that need in their community. Because when you put it out there, we're great community conveners, collaborators, bringing people together to meet that need. And I learned so much every day from everyone. So I'm going to pause for a moment. That is definitely my local Y story, but I'll pause for a second and just.
So Stacey, when you think about the crisis that your exec or your CEO was in, I should say, like we need to do something totally different. Tell me why you really think this particular outreach per se, or any outreach that the Y does, how does that fit with the Y that a lot of people think of, right, is in the center, membership driven. Like, how does this work together? How did you see it work even locally?
Yeah, and I'm seeing the chat box, and Laura's absolutely right. She said food is just the doorway into the community. We had a fundraiser who said this is a gateway program.
Mm,
It is a nice need that is in every community, and please don't ever think that hunger is not in your community.
right.
Surprisingly, we've got our colleagues at FRAC, and 73% of people believe that hunger exists, but not in their community. And
Mm,
that's just not true. We
mm,
know that 1 in 8 kids are hungry. It is in
yeah.
every community, whether you see it or not. But this is a program for the why that really does hit all 3 causes. What could be more foundational for youth development than making sure kids have the food they need? We know
Mm,
we can deliver the best academic enrichment programs in the country, but if that child is hungry and their stomach is growling, they will not be able to focus.
mhm,
It's our basic humanity,
mhm,
right? We have to have that
mhm.
basic need met. When you talk about healthy living, engaging kids with healthy foods and making sure that that need is met. If
Mm,
you are a child, if you have ever been hungry as a child, you are twice as likely to have those really big long-term health issues than your colleague who wasn't.
mm. Wow.
Ah, this
Wow.
is changing health outcomes, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got the piece around social responsibility. And being the why, we are a trusted, safe space in a community. We are a convener. Amanda and Smiths and I were just in central Lincoln County, Maine. They had a food share table right when you walked in the door. Everybody, right? They're greeting you. You walk in, there's no stigma, there's no
Mm,
questions. You just grab what you need right there at the doorway. What could be
mm,
more socially responsible than meeting people where they're at
mm,
and providing a place where it's not embarrassing, where
mm.
no questions are asked? You just get that food that you need.
Amazing. Way to think about it. Our 3 causes. I mean, it's all wrapped up in this and how it serves all 3. Really amazing. Thank you so much.
And we've really, I think this is, I've told you my local story, and I'll segue into my national story. You mentioned that I'm coming up on my 10th anniversary, a full decade at YUSA. You can see the gray hairs it's giving me if you look close. But, it was that transition too. My husband got a job opportunity. We were in South Georgia. He had an opportunity to work with GE, right? And he's in HR. It was that milestone opportunity for him. Um, but at the same time, I
Mm,
packed up 2 young children, moved across the country, and there was no YMCA in that community.
mm,
And, um, I was so excited for my husband, but at the same time, so worried. And my CEO, Jimmy Moore, at that time, he said, Stacey, I want you to call and talk to you. It was Jackie Thurno at YUSA. I just want you to call and talk to her and let her know what's going on and that you're not going to be with the Y. And, we all have those feelings. And I said, Jimmy, like, it's not, I'm coming from a small town. Why? Like, Jimmy, he's like, just do it. Promise me you'll do it. And I did talk to Jackie, and she said, Stacey, we might have something that might be brewing, that might be an opportunity. And I have to tell you, right, that this is my dream job. And we moved across the country, 2 young kids, and the same day the movers left, um, I passed out, and I wound up with some really big health issues in the hospital. And YUSA takes a while, let me say that, with our physicians back then. And I wound up bedridden for a month and had to have my mom move in with us to take care of my kids
mm,
in this new state, new place. We had no support system, no YMCA, and we all know working nonprofits that we're not folks who can really take a time without a job, without a paycheck. And so, I think back to that, and the Lord just laid me flat out. I had no choice but to be still.
mm.
And it was incredibly difficult after being a go, 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 right? I don't know if you noticed, but like there's a whole lot of energy packed into this 5-foot frame. But it was a time when I had to reflect, a time really just having to rely on God and trust that things were going to be okay. So it's still like it was such a painful time. I did phone interviews with YUSA while I couldn't get out of bed. And back then Zoom wasn't a thing, so nobody knew. But I just know that it all came together, right? God uses all things for his purpose and his plan. And that time of pause and reflection was part of it too. So when I got clearance, I also got a call that next day that they wanted me to officially start on March 1st, but could I fly out to DC for a conference a little beforehand, right? So I had an unofficial start and then my for real on paper start. And it was just such a time I felt God's presence in my life. And I knew this was what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be part of. But then also that doubt, and Janele, we talked about it too, right? A lot of times we just feel like, Lord, like it's got to be somebody else. And Priscilla, you know, that neighborhood organizer, she had told me a while back, she said, Stacey, you're going to be the voice. You're going to be the voice for children that have no voice. You can do this. You're going to go before all these groups and you're going to talk and you're going to tell them about it. And I said, Priscilla, I don't even have the right shoes. Like, I'm not capable of this. And so she still texts me every now and again. It's like, do you have the right shoes? But you know, God can equip us when we don't feel worthy and we don't feel like we can deliver. And this whole project has just been a blessing. And it's been a blessing of seeing this work unfold in countless communities, of meeting folks like Ed Wallace, Laura Horn, Amanda Schmitz, and Stephanie Mackel, and I saw you on the line too, and so many others that really just pour themselves into making sure that kids all across this country have food, have good role models in their lives, have somebody who's checking in and encouraging and affirming them. You know, that is a powerful thing to be a part of.
Stacey, I am so struck with so many of your comments about how God was moving, or how you noticed, or Jimmy's invitation, or even the humility that Priscilla, you know, kind of gave you through like some hard lessons, and, you know, humbled you a little. Like, all of that just feels so natural to you, and yet you're vulnerable about how this works for you. But to me, that's spiritual leadership, meaning that you're really connected and aware of yourself and of God and what's happening. And, you know, hindsight, like you said, maybe supports some of that. But I would love to know, and I would guess everyone on this call, like, how do you stay spiritually in tune and lead from your faith inside of the YMCA, inside of this work? There's a lot of collaborations. There's a lot of different people. There's lots of, you know, even governmental and different, you know, partners. And I'm just wondering the complexity of that. How do you stay in tune and lead spiritually from a faith in Christ?
Yeah, you know, I was really excited about this opportunity to connect with this group, because I feel like sometimes we don't always, right, talk about it. And sometimes, you know, you're just salt and light without ever directly talking specifically about this. And I told my husband this morning, I said, oh, I hope I don't cry. Like, these are such personal things. That time, right, that month spent bedridden and not, right, being able to take care of my kids, or knowing if we were going to be able to make ends meet, was a deeply humbling, painful time. But we just know God uses it. And I think I mentioned the people, but, you know, I'm not going to cry. I'm like telling myself this now, but, you know, I think we have to stay connected to God's word every day. I start the day with my Bible, and I share verses. It seems like such a small thing, but just being connected and having spiritual mentors in your life. Tim and I were talking about Ed Wallace, and a lot of you on this call are familiar with him. He he consults with our food program, but retired CEO out of Hopkins County, Kentucky YMCA. who has been doing food programs since I was in diapers. Like, he's got pictures from the 80s with his hair and his short shorts, and he's passing out food. But you know, having spiritual mentors that that you can call when it looks bleak, and you can tell them your doubts and your worries, and ask them to pray for what's coming next, and know that they are, and have them speak back to you scripture and encouragement. We need that for one another. You know, we've got so many peers on this call that you can just have very real conversations with, and you can count on. But I think staying connected, right, apart from him, we knew nothing. And that is part of who we are. It's how we show up. And I think that is how we succeed in leading mission work.
So beautiful. So great. Is there anything else you'd like to say to us before you also inform us of how we can get connected to the food program network that you're leading?
Yeah, I would just encourage everyone, if this is something you haven't thought about, if you're no money, no staff, I would just say you're not alone. No kitchen. Hey, there's so few Ys that actually have functioning kitchens. But we know that Ys can do a lot with a little. And, you know, you've got Laura in Chattanooga had 100 summer outreach sites. Gosh, when the tornadoes hit, they spun right around and gave food to volunteers. Amanda, you know, they went when the pandemic shutdown happened. Amanda, I think you had about 100 kids in your program. And in that weekend that the school shut down, turned around and on Monday fed 1,000 kids. But they asked for help, right? The Lazy Boy headquarters turned over their corporate kitchens to produce meals for kids. Like, how cool is that? You've got Stephanie McElhone out in Rome, and you know, they're working with Restoration Rome, another nonprofit. But that's another way Ys can help. We can shore up other nonprofits, other churches. It's the same mission, right? To be able to nourish kids. And how do we bring our resources and their resources to the table to make more? I think I could spend a whole day talking about how we can do this, but I would just challenge you to really think, how might this work in our community? Every community has hunger. How can we go beyond our walls? Because there's a lot of kids that will scholarship. Even if we scholarship, they're not going to come in our walls. And we have a calling to go out to them and meet them where they're at. Lives change that way, including ours.
Yeah.
So I will, Janelle, if you want me to tell a little more about some of the national, I will. I will try to share the slide real quick.
Sure, that's fine. What I heard you say so vividly is that we have to have a mindset of being abundant, that we have the resources somewhere, right? And collaborations, or however it's going to happen, right? You have to believe, and that's the faith part too. It's not just what we have, it's the fishes and the loaves story, right? Like, oh, we have this little thing. What will happen, and what's the miracle that's going to happen? So thank you for, I don't know, inspiring us or challenging us to think abundantly. But yes, please tell us about the national work. And
I love that you said that too, right? Jesus fed 5,000 from one little boy that shared his lunch.
Right.
Miracles still happen. We can make this happen. And find your way to yes. It's one of my favorite quotes from a colleague at World Central Kitchen, but we never take no for an answer. We always find our way to yes.
Find your way to yes. Very good.
Yeah. So there is grant funding available for this. You don't have to have no money for mission. We're happy to give you money for mission, which is always a welcome thing at the Y. But last year, we served about 46.7 million meals across the grant-funded Ys. 38 million pounds of food were distributed to almost 1 million children and families. That is representing about 200 associations. That's 25% of our movement. Imagine what we could do if we got the other 75% on board. Wow. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what the YMCA as a whole can do. So, you know, I've shared with you some stories from folks on the call, but take a look at what is happening. You'll see in that top left corner, let me get my little mouse going. That's La Crosse YMCA. The Subaru dealer donated a new car so they could help distribute food. You've got down here, these gals are from Goldsboro, North Carolina. Check out those shirts, Help the Hungry Mobile Market. They are running open markets in their community to provide meals and food. You've got up here, the Atlanta YMCA was delivering fresh produce families. San Antonio down here, bagged meals for kids. You've got Pam Supernaut up in YMCA of Central Massachusetts. They partnered with a school during the pandemic for families the school identified could not get to meal sites. Within the first hour of Pam asking for volunteers, she had over 100 sign up. They delivered over 1 million meals.
Wow. Wow.
You've got Detroit down here also really stepping in. This is out of Greenville, South Carolina. They go into motels that are essentially homeless populations, have a partnership with DoorDash as well to deliver the meals to families after they transition out, but they work with area churches to deliver food. And then you've got over here, Beaufort Jasper YMCA. They partnered up for a migrant camp to take food out to those families and those workers, and also do English as a second language courses for them. Lots of big work happening. So how can you be part of it? Just so happens we're getting ready to launch 2023 funding opportunities. That webinar there is a national call series every month where you'll hear from national presenters, local Ys that are spotlighted, and have breakout discussion time. That first call, January 11th at noon Central, will talk about future funding opportunities. Let me take these slides down so I can see you. You will have an opportunity then to learn about funding opportunities. We'll do this year piloting something called an intent of interest form. So you fill out that form that will open January 25th in Smart Simple. It lets you share which bodies of work for food programs, because it's very varied, interest your why. Sure. And then we have both immediate funding opportunities, and we will have potential. We've got several funders on the hook right now. So when those come through, as long as you complete this application, you'll be on that list of Ys to be considered for those opportunities immediately. So big opportunities in the coming year.
Wow. And an invitation with money? Like what? This is amazing, Stacey.
Right. Hey,
you've done great work. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you for your inspiration. It feels like we need to get talking about our reactions, because I'm pretty inspired by all this. Is there anything else, Stacey? Any last word you want to give us?
I think that's a pretty powerful way to close out of a call to mission along with funding for it. And I'm including that link in the chat box for everyone. But man, thank you for this opportunity to just share with you the story, but also to consider your story. And if anti-hunger efforts does fit that. And, you know, I was really thinking and praying about today. And, you know, that go-to scripture, of course, is Matthew 25:35. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. And you all know how that ends, right? Whenever you do for the least of these, you did for me. You know, this is our opportunity to truly live it out in such a way that does involve so many community members and opportunities to serve.
Such a powerful way to be Christ's presence in our Y, in our community. So incredible.